The story is basically, it's set against a civil war in Bougainville Island, which is a small island near Papua New Guinea. War over mining rights, basically, that became quite atrocious. And within the story, Hugh's character is the last remaining expatriate on the island and takes over the task of teaching by reading the children Great Expectations. Xzannjah's character, Matilda, becomes so enchanted with Pip that he becomes real to her. And before we know it, the army is looking for this character, Pip. And this sort of fantasy causes a great tragedy on the island, but ultimately it's a story really about the power of story and how imagination story can lift us out of the worst trauma.
Yes, the character he has as the film unfolds, we discover that there is cause for enormous sorrow and loss in his life. But he is an optimist. His heart is open. He is open to the enchantment of the novel that he brings to that he begins to read to these children, which he does, by the way, in the absence of any teaching qualifications whatsoever, which he frankly admits. He's not a teacher. He has no qualifications to teach. But the one thing he does have is this passion for this great novel, Few Better in the English language. And he and X's character begin this strange journey through the story of, through Pip's story in Great Expectations, which becomes sort of woven into her fantasy of a much broader and bigger relationship with the character of Pip. You know, in that way, I think his heart is definitely open. He is a kind man, a good man, and a loving man. But he's also a melancholy man, a man who has suffered greatly in his life, So I think all things, as with pretty much like people, I think all things are present in him.
I'd say I didn't have to go through adjusting to, acting with someone who's not my child. So that was easy. So I don't know what it takes. I mean, I can't speak about having to adapt to act with someone else other than my child. So I think it was just natural. Although we had to play the character in the book, which is Dolores and Matilda, the daughter. I think Dolores was a religious woman, and she didn't quite like the association that, or the influence that Mr. Watts was having on her daughter, Matilda. And she tried her best to make sure that influence doesn't interfere with the way she wanted her daughter to be brought up.
It was kind of easy having to act with my mom because the mother and daughter relationship was already established and
Get a bit of practice at that.
yeah, it was kind of easy relating to her. For me playing Matilda, the whole acting experience was kind of new. It was actually interesting for me because it was my first time, and it was kind of fun too.
Ultimately, I think it's a redemptive story. It's a redemptive story for Hugh's character. It's a redemptive story actually for all three characters in different ways. To me, there's certainly intellectual things to take away from the story. There's certainly messages about colonialism through literature and how we can't help but affect a culture we go into. But ultimately, to me, it's really a story about the redemptive power of story and the power of the imagination. I think that's really what people take away from it.